Have you ever felt like there's not communication in the construction industry? Well, you're not alone. We all have that struggle when it comes to the construction industry. If you're trying to get these people to do work for you, or if you're trying to get people on your team to do work, that communication oftentimes fails. And today we're going to talk about that with Hayden. What is going on, guys? This is Philip Sessions, your communication strategy coach, and I'm here with Hayden Cortez. He is the co founder of a tech company called SpotOnSight. He has helped exterior contractors boost sales and improve site communication with a simple mobile app. His mobile app allows contractors to measure and mark locations via satellite view, attach photos and videos to each job site or repair location, and instantly generate professional looking reports to send and collaborate with their team and customers. Talk about sweet communication right there, instantaneous. But prior to Spot on Site, he was running the sales team for an asphalt and concrete maintenance company based in Denver, Colorado, called National Pavement Partners. Through his time at NPP, he helped scale his company from 6 million to 20 million in 4 years through streamlining processes using technology. A big part of his contribution was building scalable sales and estimating teams, along with establishing processes for his crews. During his time at NPP, he also leveraged the use of technology to help scale, which eventually led himself and his co-founder to create Spot on Site. But now I've given kind of the business background. Hayden, tell us a little bit more about you from a personal perspective.
Yeah, and I appreciate that introduction. Did you write that yourself? Or
No, I didn't. I wish I did. I didn't do that much research
no, I'm
to get
just
all
kidding.
those details.
Yep, no, you're good. Well, first off, thank you for having me on. I as you mentioned, I'm from Denver, Colorado. I got thrown into the construction space, quote unquote, accidentally. When you're growing up, you always think about what you want to do, what you want to be in life. And I was, the typical guy, want to be NFL player, MLB player, want to be a firefighter, all the cool occupations. And then here I am. I ended up landing in asphalt and concrete. I went to college up in northern Colorado in a little town called Greeley. And I actually got my degree in exercise science out of all the different occupations. And so, what I wanted to do was physical rehabilitation for cancer patients originally. Unfortunately, due to insurance and all that jazz, that industry was not really available, and there's no jobs or career opportunities for that. So I went and started working at a gym, and I was working at Lifetime Fitness. If anybody's ever heard of it, selling
Oh
gym
yeah, I love
memberships.
Lifetime Fitness, man.
Yep, it's like once you go there, you can't go back to any other gym, and it's worth the cost. So I was working there selling gym memberships, and I was, to be honest, I was getting my butt kicked. That was my first real hardcore sales job. I was selling, gym memberships up in college. Um, but these were like the $10 a month gyms, so it was pretty easy versus Lifetime's a lot higher. And I was doing the cold calling and got really introduced to communication and training and sales follow-ups and the whole process really. And that was kind of my first thrown into the fire moment where I learned how to sell and how to communicate effectively. So I'm grateful for that job. But long story short, met my business partner, and he I signed him up for a gym membership. Actually, he liked the way I sold, and we ended up creating a friendship, and that's how I got started with it. But um, other personal stuff, I'm married, happily married to my wife Megan. We just celebrated our 3-year anniversary. We got married 2 days actually after COVID hit. So our wedding date was March 14th, and then everything shut down on the 16th. So uh,
Man,
we were in Jamaica, and my parents were calling us, telling us to take toilet paper from our rooms when we come back because supposedly there's no toilet paper at home. So it's kind of a cool thing that we can always reflect back on. But that's a little bit about me. I, have a dog. I don't do much besides try to run and build this business and help coach and train small contractors.
Nice, man. Well, that's hilarious about the toilet paper thing. And so yeah, I'm just barely ahead of you, a little bit more seasons. We got married November 2019, so right before COVID. And so you and I both went through that, newly married, and you're stuck at the house.
Yep,
Talk
yep.
about a big learning curve that you just have to take on full force. That was definitely tough. I know a lot of marriages really struggle because of that, and those first couple years are definitely a tough thing. But
You know,
but
and
let's
for
go ahead.
for a lot of people, it's almost like that going to work was almost everyone's quote unquote alone time from each other. And so,
Yeah.
being around each other more often was definitely brought its, challenges
Mhm.
with it. And so as we digress.
Yeah, for sure. So I want to go into our first question that I always like to ask, and it sounds like you're a sales guy, so you probably don't have this fear anymore. But how did you get over that fear of public speaking?
Man, I tell you what, I haven't gotten over it yet. It's a constant battle that you will always feel, no matter if you're speaker that like Ed Milet, who speaks in front of hundreds of thousands of people every year. I truly feel, you got to lean into the fear. And
Mm.
so the only way that been able to overcome it is much like how I live my life. I have a motto. I say, just send it. And to me, that means just go for it, just do it, don't overthink it. And, the more times I've gotten in front of the camera or gotten in front of people just talking and not overthinking it, having my mind going a million miles an hour, wondering what they're thinking about me, the more times I've been able to improve. So for me, it's just sending it, like my famous quote or infamous quote, like I say.
Yeah, man, I like that. So how do you apply that? Just send it.
Yeah. So I think there's a lot of fear that holds people back from their goals, their dreams, taking on new challenges, risks. There's a lot of things that hold people back, and it's the fear primarily. And so I apply the just send it mentality from taking, that next step. And my wife is actually one of the people that brought this out of me. Is she talks about like how she never wants to be on her deathbed one day wishing that she would have done something. And I know a lot of people say that, but if you know my wife, she's very spontaneous. She's the most adventurous person I know. And so I really got motivation from her. I'll give her all the credit. And, when I finally made the decision to just go for whatever I wanted in life and not worry about what other people, thought about me or what could go wrong, I kind of gained that mentality, and it's taken me to new levels in my life that I never even thought would be possible. The amount of relationships I've been able to cultivate, the amount of confidence I've gained by just doing it. I've looked stupid plenty of times. I'm going to look stupid plenty times more. But for me, everything is learning. You fail forward and you learn from it, you adjust, and you keep going, man.
Yeah, that's entrepreneurship wrapped up right there.
Isn't it right there? Yep.
If you are not failing forward, you're not doing entrepreneurship right, and you're not going to be in it for very long because you have to fail in order to succeed eventually. Because if you're not failing, you're not pushing the boundaries, you're not pushing yourself in your business.
100%. I couldn't agree more with that, man. That's all it is.
Yeah. So let's transition this into our communication. 'Cause I think a lot of people struggle with this. I know I've had some posts here lately talking about videos specifically, and a lot of people think that, oh, I need to wait till if I get really polished at speaking, and oh, I don't want to speak because I'm nervous. I'm not going to sound good. I'm going to look kind of weird. There's all these excuses behind it. But if you want to get better at speaking, in videos more specifically, you have to just start doing the videos and you have to just start speaking. You have to just send it. So what are some tips maybe that you would give to somebody just getting started out? And let's actually focus on that business owner in the construction industry because we know that communication is not the best thing when it comes to the construction industry. So what are some tips just real quick before we dive into that that you would give to help communicate a little bit better?
Yeah, and are you talking about in reference to, creating the videos like what you were talking about? Or are you talking about in general?
Let's go with videos since
Okay.
I was there.
Perfect. So, you know, as far as like what you said earlier, taking action. You have to there everyone starts somewhere. You have to at least get in front of it and, turn on your camera and at least try. So the more repetitions, the better. And what my biggest advice would be to these guys is you are able to record what you say, how you say it. The beauty of recording stuff is you're able to reflect on it. Yeah, your first couple 10, 20, 30 videos are probably going to be pretty embarrassing. Mine were embarrassing, but you have to start somewhere, and that's the only way to improve. It's just like anything in life. If you want to, or in your construction business, if you guys want to improve your sales process and your sales follow up, how do you improve it? You got to just do it and you got to learn and, and adjust and move forward from it. So it just is all is intertied to just what we were talking about, man. You fail forward, you learn, but the most important thing is you have to learn to communicate um, using video by actually doing it. And a big thing that I see that contractors run into is the messages that they're communicating. Everyone, the contractors think I, especially if you use our paving industry, there's so much like asphalt knowledge and subgrade knowledge and stuff that but be careful of what you do communicate because you have to think about who is actually going to be watching your content and that's going to be your customers or that should be your goal unless you're building a brand like there's a company in our in our sector that's called Raised on Blacktop. They've built a brand for contractors and that's how they make their money is for by selling to contractors. But if you're a contractor, you want to sell to your customer, think about some stuff that that could help out your customer by giving them the knowledge of what like if you do work for property managers, you should be making content on here's a here's how often you should seal coat your parking lots every 3 years. It's on a 3 year cycle. Here's what you can do between. So think about the information you're providing for them. I see a big problem in the contracting space when they are doing social media and videos is they're showing off their equipment and showing off stuff that your customers don't care about.
Man,
So
that is a golden point, and I'm so glad you went right down that, direction because it's so important. So many people don't think about that, and I see it when they go get on stage. If they're a business owner, they're not a business owner, everybody just says, "Oh, I'm just gonna go speak," or, "I'm just gonna do a video," but then they just talk about random stuff. So, and if they do kind of keep within their industry, it's exactly like you said. They talk, and it's understandable because they're starting with what they're comfortable with. I'm comfortable. I have this knowledge on concrete. I have this knowledge on pavement. So let me just talk about that. But yes, you have to know who that customer is. That is so important. So maybe they're a little confused. What suggestions would you give for them to be able to help them talk to that customer or realize that maybe they're not talking to that customer? Like how would they go about that? That maybe they've started the videos. That's great. You've definitely just got to get started to get comfortable, but now we're comfortable with the videos. Now, how do we refine that message more to make sure that we're actually talking to the customer instead of just talking construction lingo?
yeah. So what I would recommend is before you even click the record button, take 10, 15, 20 minutes just to plan and write out topics that you can discuss. And these topics are going to come from questions that that your customers have asked you. If there's a repeated question that you've heard 10 different customers ask you when you're meeting them on job sites, those are good topics to start with. And one of the great things I learned from these marketing books is you want to answer the questions that people are thinking but they don't necessarily say. For your customers, they want to know like phasing, or they may want to know like what you charge per square foot, or all the different questions that may come up. have the list already ready of questions that these guys come up with, and then that will give you content to start filming off of. Then from there, you can, shoot the video and then refine it even more, even further to say, okay, I liked how I said this, but I kind of stuttered here and kind of went off on a tangent here. So how can I consolidate it? And you reshoot it, and then soon enough you'll kind of have a little mini process. But it all starts with the planning of what you want to talk about. You can't just go out there and wing it. And the ones you wing don't always go great. And you miss opportunity by doing that.
Yeah, you're exactly right. And so we're talking about this 15 to 20 minutes of prep. Are we talking about for maybe a little bit longer form content? Let's say over 10 minutes? Or are we talking about something short or both?
Good question. So we believe in all of our content, we try to keep at, I mean, the longest we'll do is, especially when we're posting on social media, is probably about a minute and a half.
Okay.
We like to keep it for the length of reels. We do have some long form videos, but those are going to be full walkthroughs. Think about your customer's attention span. Think about your attention span when you're scrolling through any social media. You notice how these all these people, when they're using the captions and the video editors, they change the scene real quick, or it'll zoom in, zoom out. These are all intentional things to keep your attention on the video itself, and this is why people use those kind of video editing programs. So I like the shorter the better. We're experimenting now with like 20 to 30-second videos, even shorter content, to see if you get more engagement, more views on it. So I recommend just starting short and just doing quick, quick topics. And then if you do want to do longer form content, maybe it's explaining the full process of what your company does from when a job is awarded to the final invoice. Maybe you talk about, the National Pavement Partners, um, the National Pavement Partners preparation program. You talk about providing them with, site maps for every single resident that's going to be affected by the work. You talk about the before and after photos that you're going to be sending to them. Different content like that you can build it, which more highlights your company. And that's more the long form, but the short term should be just answering kind of those questions that everyone would be thinking or asking.
Hmm. That's such a good point there. And to me, you're talking about kind of some different aspects and everything. You're talking about frequently asked questions, and then now you're talking about as well as like the company. Maybe there's company culture within all of that, and I think those are all great things to talk about. Now, how how do you shorten some of this down? Because it's funny when we think about trying to do a minute long video, that doesn't seem like a lot of time, but then it seems like a lot of time sometimes. But when you get into this video, all of a sudden you're like 3 minutes in. So how do you make that more clear and concise, especially as you start trying to chop down to 20 seconds and still have some kind of value within that video?
Yeah. And it's all about how, that's part of the effective communication right there, is you cut out the fat, trim the fat. And a lot of people, including myself, I still work on it when I'm talking about something or I'm trying to get to the point. Sometimes you take roundabout ways. To cut down on that is it's just like what we talked about. You just need to record it, and you'll be able to see, what's important and what's not. Your goal should be to maximize the amount of value that you explain in a video in the most concise ways possible, and so all that takes is just repetition. And if you want to get at that, or if you want to do a roundabout way, you can even just take your 3-minute video and then figure out how you can cut it into 4 30-second videos, or there's different ways you can trim it by still having the same message, um, but just gives you different options. But really, it's going to be repetition, and you're gonna have to shoot probably the same video a couple different times till you get exactly what you want. It's like practicing a speech. You have a 10-minute time frame. You practice it the first time and you're at 14 minutes, and then you practice it the second time, you're at 12. Third time, you'll nail it right on the money.
Hmm. I like that. So go in there, get some reps, but then also trim that fat as you're getting those reps in.
Yep.
Well, so now let's. I know everybody's probably like, okay, this is a lot about videos. Now let's actually get into the everyday communication that we see, especially on the construction site. And we talked a little bit offline about business owners, and especially as they're starting that business, they were maybe a one man show, and now they've got a couple of team members, and they're trying to grow this business, but figuring out how to communicate and get it to where they're not the person doing all that work. They're having their team do that work. And not that they're not doing anything, but they're able to step back and start working on the business versus in the business. How does that look in that communication path to be able to get, I guess, further and further away from the day-to-day work?
Yeah. And, with SpotOnSight, our company, that's really a major sector of who our ideal customers are, these owner operator guys. Um, they're spread so thin, they wear a million hats. These guys are on the job sites running the equipment. These guys are doing the sales, or doing the marketing, the hiring, the firing, the invoicing, you name it. So communication gets missed because we're all human at the end of the day. There's only so much we can remember, so much we can communicate before we're completely exhausted. And so what we train our guys is figure out ways to scale yourself. And there's some simple ways we've been able to train some of our customers on ways to scale. First and foremost is if you go and ask around, most of these owner operators, if they have any of their processes documented, I bet you majority of them would say no. And
Yeah, I've
that's,
seen that.
yep, it's a huge first misstep. And it's because these guys go so hard and balls to the walls all the time, they don't ever stop, slow down in order to speed up. So what we coach them to do is use this program called Loom. It's a very simple video recording tool. And we tell them is every single thing that's inside of your head, whether it's estimating, whether it's how you look at your AR reports and how you analyze it, whether it's how you follow up with the customer, anything that you do, you need to create a video on it and
Mm.
record yourself. How do you inspect a parking lot? Or how do you uh, do a takeoff for with when you get a set of plans. There's so many things that these guys just keep bottled up inside of their head, and your goal as a business owner should be to learn how to fire yourself. You want to fire yourself from every single position that you do. If you're an owner operator, you want to fire yourself first from being on the crew. Then you want to fire yourself from having to do all the sales. Then you want to fire yourself from having to do any of the HR and the marketing. And so if you think of that in that future self in mind, you'll be able to start recording and documenting these processes. And that's the easiest way that we tell these guys to start somewhere, because even when you do bring on a new guy and you're still an owner operator, you don't have time to stop and train them because you got jobs going on, and it just doesn't stop. So by having at least stuff documented on video, will give them a good starting platform. So that's one way we teach them.
Hey, I want to stop you real quick right there. And I was
Yeah,
going to ask that question, but then you answered it. So having that video allows you to not spend as much time trying to train. But that's also another important thing, which you mentioned there, is that the video, while I mean, unless it's just s- super perfect, I almost said spot on. So it's,
you can give me a little plug,
but
man. It's
anyway,
all
it's, you know,
good.
it's spot on there and everything. There's still going to be little nuances that maybe you missed in that video.
Mhm.
But the great thing about the video is I would say at a minimum, you're probably going to cut 50% of the training time because you went through step by step in a video. And you got to make sure you go through step by step, not what you think is basic. You need to go in what feels like just nails on a chalkboard, just gruesome detail, and that's going to be probably 70% of what the detail they need to learn. So you get to really go into detail on these videos, but it definitely cuts down on the training time, and that's also something that your employees can then go back and reference as well, rather than asking you like, "Hey, I've got this training. Go check it out real quick. If you got more questions, let's get together after that."
Yep, 100%. And the video is way better than handing somebody a binder of typed out processes that they have to go through and read. Nobody wants to do that. And I don't know if when they were doing that, if anyone ever enjoyed it. I hope not. But
No.
now video is so perfect. Everyone loves videos. So, yeah, the videos are going to be dry, they're going to be boring, but it's still the most effective way you can train somebody without you having to actually train them, which will allow you to eventually scale. You do bring enough people in, have enough videos, enough systems built and that are documented, you can slowly start stepping away and work on the business, not in the business.
Mm. And you gotta do all the videos at once, right?
Yeah, all at once. You guys spend 2 weeks and that's all you're doing, just processes in recording videos. Not at all, man. Obviously, that was a rhetorical question, but, it literally takes you an extra 2 minutes to start Loom, to label it, whatever you wanna call it, how I estimate a job, and save it. So do it while you're with you're going through your day-to-day stuff and just fire up the camera, start it, and it's minimal time investment for how much it's going to save you later on down the road.
Now, I know Loom, that's been on the desktop. I've used it for, applications, and I'm sharing my screen, but does that work for on the job site perhaps, or how would that work?
Yep, it works for on the job site. You can just have it record a camera, so
Okay.
it hears you talking and it saves it. It's just like a regular video, but the only thing is it saves it under the Loom file in your company profile. So use it literally everywhere. If you're a roofing contractor, get up on the roof, record yourself walking, show what you look for. Just the sky's the limit. I use asphalt a lot just because that's where I'm come from, but it's
Yeah.
it's it translates to any contracting space.
Nice. That's awesome. I guess with the app maybe or whatever that you can use that way. 'Cause I was like, well, I use it on the desktop. I don't know how that would work. I'm not gonna carry my whole computer out there.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
But if you
no,
got the
don't
app,
do that.
that works perfect. Or even if you are maybe technology illiterate, get a video camera. You've got one on your phone, just do a video there. Don't even worry about Loom if you don't have to. And if you can't upload it into Loom, you can upload it into Google Drive and have some SOPs right there. You have videos of SOPs. And there's plenty of ways you can skin this cat, so to
Yep.
say.
Yep, 100%. I think it's the easiest, simplest way to start scaling yourself.
So the video trainings, that's a great thing to do. But when it comes to like meetings and having one-on-ones with employees, what are some best practices there that we could do?
I've learned a lot about meetings and I've learned a lot about how much we've done them wrong. People dread meetings and there's reasons why. It's because they're time wasters. They're just a nuisance to people, and if they're ran wrong, then people get turned off by them. You don't get the right engagement. Meetings should be to solve problems, move forward, address issues, and brainstorm really on new processes, new ideas, whatever for your business. If it's not covering any of those four, then there's not really a point to have a meeting. And what we were doing is we were spending too much time up front on getting everybody warmed up into the meeting, and then soon enough we go on a tangent, start talking about something else, and then the meeting doesn't officially start for another 30 minutes.
Hmm.
So controlling the meetings and just getting right to the point, having an agenda that is visible to everybody so they know we're going to spend 5 minutes talking about this, and once 5 minutes is up, we're moving and talking about this. A big book that a book that I'm sure you've probably read, Traction by Gino Wickman,
Yeah.
talks about the EOS system and their I forgot what they call the meetings, but we'll call it the magical meetings. And he has full structures of how meetings should be ran, and even like if there's issues coming up, those need to be wait until the issues portion of the meeting. And what we've had happen is we're asking and checking in on guys how jobs are going, and then everyone starts telling stories about jobs, and then soon enough you just waste time. So you need to have, if you're running the meetings, have an agenda, then you need to stick to that agenda. And then you need to make sure that you are being a moderator of the meeting and you're cutting off tangents. You're like cutting the head off the snake. So that way everyone's staying focused and getting through what you guys need to talk about. So those are a couple different ways, even with like one on ones as well.
Mhm.
One on ones are a great time to build closer relationships with your employees. It's a great time to leverage that. You can leverage that time to learn more about them, learn more about what they want. And I think they're extremely vital to your growth and the growth of the loyalty that's going to come get returned back to you. So same thing though, have a plan when you go into these meetings and these one-on-ones. Inform them ahead of time. Hey, this is what we're going to be discussing. I'll give you a couple minutes to bring up any other issues you might see, and then we'll go from there. So, really, just starts with planning and sticking with that plan, and cutting off all the again extra fat that gets thrown in these meetings that end up being big time wasters.
Man, that's great. And I would love to hear your thoughts on this. Something I would add to that is really summarizing at the end of the meeting, just summarizing maybe what you talked about or the key takeaways from that meeting, especially depending on the meeting. If it's just kind of an update, status reports, maybe you're not doing so much summarization. But if it's a meeting talking about strategy, future planning, you kind of summarize what are these next steps, what are the decisions that need to be made, and who is going to be responsible for that, and then sending a follow-up email. That is crucial because you can say everything verbally and people will hear it. They know they're supposed to do it. They leave that meeting, they go outside the room, they hit end meeting on Teams, Skype, whatever you're on, and they have amnesia. They forget everything.
Yeah.
So you want to make sure that you send meeting notes because the great thing is it holds everybody accountable, and you can go back and say, "Hey, this was on the meeting notes. Did you get it taken care of?" And the one-on-ones especially, and this is more to the employees, if you do not get a meeting summarization from your boss or manager or whoever, you can also use this to say, "Hey, in the meeting we talked about XYZ. This was next steps." And that lets them know that, hey, you actually paid attention. But then, two, if they don't do their part, you can now hold them accountable because you sent that email, and you can even put in there like, if you don't if I'm assuming that everything is clear and this is correct if you don't reply to this. So that
Mhm.
way they're forced to reply, and if they don't, then that's on them. Now
Yep.
you have it in writing. So make sure that you get all that in writing to hold everybody accountable.
Yes, 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 and yes to everything that you brought up, man. And that's the whole second half is assigning the action items. And
Mhm.
a big lesson that we've learned is if more than one person is responsible for something and nobody's responsible for it. So with these action items, make sure you assign it to one person to get done.
Mhm.
Or if it's a team, make sure it's very clearly done with both of them and then, or assigned to both of them. And then in between, they can decide what parts of it they want to complete. But assigning the responsibility, because that's part of the meetings, is every time you go and have a follow up meeting to that meeting you had, there should be progress made and
Yeah.
trackable progress. And that's the only way to measure is to see if these come up. And those recap emails, like you talked about, those are great things to pull up from the previous meeting to say, okay, Bill, I signed you this. Did you get this done? Yes, great. Joe, did you get that done? No, why not? And this that helps you be accountable, but it helps you also remember kind of what you guys talked about. And then everyone will starts to realize, okay, these meetings are more than just checking in and BSing with each other. It's accountable actions that allow us to move forward and get stuff done.
Yeah, for sure. And then if you do have that team, I would suggest that you put one person, we'll call it ultimate responsible or lead on that. Maybe not the boss or anything like that, but they're the ones that are going to be responsible for that. And so everybody kind of reports back to them, because if you leave it up to the team to do it, again, nobody's really going to do it. But now they're both held accountable. So you want to make sure that one person kind of takes lead on that and say that in there. And that way they can maybe rebuttal on that. But
100%.
you brought up something that I wanna really extract out a little bit more, because A lot of people aren't doing these very structured meetings. They're not doing these meeting notes afterwards. And I've been around the not the construction industry as much, but I've been in the corporate world, and it's always kickback when you first start having structure and having these meetings. So what would you say to these business owners as they start having these meetings and start trying to put structure in that hasn't been there before? What would you say to them to help them maybe keep motivated to continue to do it, or how to motivate the team to get on board with that structure?
I love it. Yes, that's embracing change is what it is.
Mhm.
And we deal with a lot of pushback on that because we're a tech company trying to introduce software and technology to antiquated construction companies. And so you want to talk about serious pushback, that's we hit that every single day, man. So but as far as like a business owner running, wanting to make changes, you have to hold firm to these changes. And the worst thing you can do is bring up a change that you want to implement, try to implement it for a week, and then give up on it. And you do this enough times and consistently, nobody's gonna believe you. They think you're gonna be full of shit every single time that you bring
Mm.
something up. And so sticking with it. And unfortunately, during these times of big change, you're gonna find out who is really down for the cause and who's going to be a ride or die employee and who's here and who's going to be in the right seat by their reactions to it. People that you want to be with you in the long run are going to embrace the change with you, are going to be on board. But you're going to have guys that may have been with you in the very beginning, and now try to introduce change that are going to be like, who's this guy think he is now? Like, we've been doing this for 5 years. Why would we ever change anything now? You're gonna have those guys, and unfortunately, you're gonna have to get rid of them. I'm just gonna say it plain as day. If you as a business owner, if you want your construction company to go this way, or you want your company just to go this way, and you have guys that are going the opposite way or not the same way that you're going, you have to get rid of them.
Mm.
And it's a very trialing time whenever you do start implementing change, but the biggest thing you have to do is you have to stick with it. But with that, give your team the opportunity to help improve this change. Just because you want to start a new process and you want to implement something doesn't mean it's 100% the right way. Present it to them, move that general direction, but give your team the opportunity to provide their input and feedback and adjustments that it's going to work for everybody. And that's going to create buy in from your team to continue to move forward with these changes because they feel like they have a part of building this company and running the processes the way that they want it to be ran as well. It's not just slapping down an order and them following it and whenever they don't agree with it. It's you get more buy-in by having these guys being able to, put their input in, make adjustments. So as far as sticking with it and then also allowing your team to buy in are a couple different ways that you can embrace change. But like I said, you're going to run into conflict whenever you do that. So I can pretty much guarantee it. And unfortunately, that's just the nature of the beast. There's no way around it. And unfortunately, you got to let some people go who aren't going to be embracing the change with you.
Yeah, man, you are exactly right with that. I couldn't agree more. And I like that you mentioned about having them have buy in with it too. Because as you're starting to make this change, that's a very good way to get people bought into it by literally putting their opinions into it and you actually implementing some of that. That really just helps that company culture and that communication because now they're a part of it rather than, oh, boss has got some new thing we're doing. All right, cool. Well, we'll see. Is it the flavor of the month? Or, okay, I guess he's kind of sticking to it. Well, okay, now this is just what we do. No, it's like now, and now it becomes we're doing this. This is awesome because we put this together. It wasn't just Hayden or it wasn't just Philip that decided this was the new direction. We're doing this together.
Yep. And when you
Really
do it
take off.
together, that's another tool that you can use for accountability.
Yeah.
Somebody slacks off in it, like, you helped build this whole process. You had the opportunity 2 months ago when we built this thing to make any changes or to speak up, and you chose not to, and then you neglected it and you failed to do it. that's a actionable item that you can reprimand them for, and so it just helps out with accountability as well.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And then if they complain that this sucks, it's like, well, you helped build it. Like,
Yeah. So
so
what does that
you
say
must
about
suck at
you?
doing this. Don't say
About
that, but
your
yeah.
face.
Right, exactly, exactly. Well, Hayden, man, this has been awesome. I think a lot of great value in here, a lot of nuggets. Everybody definitely go back and listen to it again. You can learn a lot about communication from videos to meetings to running a team, a crew, and putting new systems in place and SOPs and everything. I think it's great stuff. But I want to get to our last question here, and that is if you had one message you could share for the rest of your life, what would that message be?
Mm, that's a great question. I'm gonna go back into, what I said earlier about leaning into the fear and just sending it, um, you'll be amazed what you can accomplish and the person you can become once you overcome the quote unquote fear. And how you overcome the fear is just by taking action and doing things.
Mm,
And, I'm a completely different person than what I was a year ago, let alone 2 years ago, before I really started accepting how to, you know, get over that. And big part of that is just not worrying about what other people think, not comparing yourself to others. It's your journey, it's your process. Yeah, we all have our wishes and wants on where we want to be, but you have to start somewhere. And the only way you start is by overcoming that fear and just taking that leap and sending it. So that's my TED talk, I guess.
nice. There we go. I love it, man. And it's so true. You just have to send it. At the end of the day, that's what it takes. One step in front of the other. You
Yep.
know what you need to do next, or an idea of what you need to do next. Take that, and that's going to make the path a little bit more clear because now you're one step forward, closer to that end goal, and eventually you're going to see that. So just keep taking that one step in front of the other, and just send it. Definitely love that. So Hayden, if people want to get to know more about you, they want to learn more from you, learn more about Spot on Site, where can they go to get in touch with you?
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up. So I'm on pretty much all platforms. I'm most active personally on Instagram and LinkedIn. My Instagram is at Hayden Cortez with an underscore. Then our company Spot on Site is at Spot on Site, all one word. And we're on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, TikTok, you name it. So we put out a lot of content. What we did is we actually started another podcast called Apps and Asphalt, and that's where majority of our content comes from. And we dive into a lot of the stuff that we talk about today and how-to tips for these small contracting business owners to help scale. So you can find me anywhere, hopefully.
Awesome. And that was apps and asphalt or abs and asphalt?
No abs. I
Okay.
don't have any abs. I got a six pack of beer, but not a six pack of abs. But it's apps and asphalt for our technology and our construction company.
Nice. Just have to make sure because that's a totally different audience if you're going after abs and asphalt.
It is. Yep, it is. No, we're gonna stay away from that and yeah, just go with what we know, man.
There we go. Love it. Well, guys, make sure that you go follow Hayden. Make sure that you like and subscribe to our YouTube channel or leave a comment there as well. And make sure that you give us a review over on the podcast so we can continue to grow and continue to bring on amazing guests like this and give them the recognition that they deserve. So go out here and share this message because I know you got value from this.
Awesome. Thanks for having me on, Philip. This was great, man.
Of course.